Give me that. Give me that. I have questions. You have questions. I have questions. First off, why is it that people don't read comics? Listen to me, Australia. Sell your records. Throw away your electric guitars. Get rid of that dopey-ass leather jacket. Sell the whole caboodle and buy comic books. It's that simple.
Should I maybe encourage the dog to get out of the room?
I just know.
A few years ago, we organized together, and then we made a group called like Core Comic, and it's a group of comic artists in art school in Yogyakarta, in Java, in Indonesia. And we try to publish our own comic. We edit by ourselves, lay out, and then publish it, and then sell it by ourselves.
This is where I do, I guess, my best work. Yeah, this is where I'd like to do most of my work, but sometimes the weather doesn't allow it. Yeah, just come out here on a sunny day and yeah, just sit down and concentrate on the work and just tune everything else out, and this seems to be the best place for it. Finished Neil Blandon's cartoon course at TAFE and sort of got a bit fired up after that to go and do something.
A long time ago, my family has a comic rental book, and then at that time, like on 70s, like 75, 76, before 70s, like my government, the Indonesian government, they said that comics in Indonesia is like poison. They make like a big campaign, like propaganda, and then it kills comic industry.
Big Smoke is based on the idea that when you live in a big city, you're totally alienated from everybody, especially when you're living in a big city and working 9 to 5, that type of thing. And it's basically just autobiographical stories, and they don't really have an ending or a punchline or anything like that. Like, it was originally going to be called Nowhere Stories, because I like that concept of a story just starting and peaking, but it never just kind of ends, because that's kind of what life is about too. I might be sitting on a bus and something weird will happen, and I'll try and make the smallest possible event into a really interesting story.
Hi, my name is John Weeks. I do quick draw. Welcome to my world. I had a friend who passed away. This was in '95. And he was very articulate. You know, he had a lot in common with a lot of the kind of ideas and goals and values I did. And then he carked it. And I realized that he had a lot of, interesting thoughts that had never really had a chance to be articulated. And he's a perfectionist. He was trying to get it all perfect, trying to get it in perfect form. And at some point, it really just sort of came to me. There was never any kind of, sudden thunderbolt realization. It just sort of grew on me that you can't wait for the perfect moment to say what you have to say. You got to practice. You got to kind of gig around town, as it were. And you've got to work your way up to saying what you have to say, rather than expecting it all to kind of, come to life perfectly realized.
I distribute them basically by foot. I go out to shops and ask them if they support small press, particularly Australian small press. And apart from a couple of shops in Box Hill, which I probably shouldn't have tried in the first place, because they only sold manga comics, I haven't been knocked back yet.
I walk around to stores. I photocopy it myself over the road, and then I just walk around.
Comics influence tattoo, not tattoo influence comic.
First tattoo, there's evidence.
Yeah, okay. Where's your first one?
My first tattoo is like Donald Duck.
Right.
The story is basically about the main warfare between the evil and the good one, or like more issues less like the devil and the angels. Like it's like they're always fighting each other, and until we knew exactly who's the good or who's the bad.
Right.
Yeah, but sometimes we get confused, like to choose.
This is actually one of my favorite. This is a beautiful comic. It specifically was designed by Athonk and his friends to teach illiterate peasants and people that live in villages how to protest the government when they come in and say, you've got to get off your land, we're building a nuclear power plant. And that's specifically what this is about, to teach local villagers in isolated areas how to say no, because in most cases they don't know how. And you see this is a comic, and it's written in the local dialect of Javanese.
I done a lot of comics like bedtime story, and then before that I make like small comic like John Wick's comics, like small thing.
I'm much more familiar with the American scene. I guess we tend to kind of grow out of our own scene, basically, and move our way outward from that. American, who do I like? I like David Chelsea. I think he's way the hell underrated. Bob Fingerman, he's fun, not terribly deep. Peter Cooper. Anthologies, World War III Illustrated, great fun. I like a good political comic, or a comic that has strong political overtones. That's always fun. And they're getting harder and harder to find. I think one of the reasons in my more paranoid moments that comics have been less popular is because that they can articulate political ideas so easily. You try to sing something in a song, and you get like, what, Billy Bragg, Insurge. You try rhyming something with socio-economic political complex. It just ain't all that easy. But in comics, you know, you've got the things like Marx for beginners, Chomsky for beginners, all that stuff, and they pull it off wonderfully. Comics is much more representational. Music is much more abstract.
I drew this poster for him because he's the leader of Free Worker Union in Indonesia. New issue from inside Indonesia, January and March '97. They have cover my picture. Just want to show you some comics for activism. This comic by my friend. It's about women. And then one night, I spent night in headquarters of activists in Jakarta, and then in the morning we make action, and then we had action for human rights, and then demonstration, and then few minutes I got busted by police, and then they dragged me to the office, and then they found my comic, and then they asked about my comic, and then they tried to copy it.
Have you read Miss 45? It's not a comic, it's a zine. It's done here in Canberra.
Right.
Canberra, I keep thinking I'm in Canberra, in Melbourne, by a girl called Barbara. And I've actually contributed to her zine, to the next issue, yeah. And John Weeks has actually got something up on here, on this page. Here we are, a cartoon by US expat John Weeks about blokes. See, this is pretty fast. This is about as fast as you'll get a comic appear. And this is a good kind of format where you only get one panel at a time and you just click on it to get the next panel.
Right.
It's a lot better than just having the whole comic load up. It can be really tedious. So there we have. So that's pretty cool, isn't it?
Yeah. So did he do this at his house or what?
Yep, he did this and on paper, and she's just scanned it in.
She scanned it in.
Yep.
Right.
This is her webpage, and this particular issue of Ms 45 is about blokes. So she's kind of just asking people for contributions about the topic.
Pick his nose.
Hello, blokes.
How do you think computers will affect comics?
I don't really fucking care. Next question.
It's a tricky question. I mean, I'd like to say that they're going to revolutionize the whole kind of scene, but they're not really. It's still very slow to get images to come up onto your screen, and ultimately you'd much rather read a comic that's in your hands and on paper than to read it off a computer monitor. So I don't think it's going to have that much of an effect. But it is a fabulous tool just for kind of seeing what's out there. I'm writing my webpage at the moment. Yeah. It's going to really be a point of reference for people that already read my comics. I'm not trying to get new readers in to come and buy them. I don't think that the internet really works like that, or it doesn't work terribly effectively like that. But it's for people that already buy my comics and have access to the internet, and they can find out more. They can maybe see things that they wouldn't see in my comics. It'll have a little bit more personal stuff, photos and things. I always find it really interesting finding out more about the person that does write the comic, because especially with autobiographical comics, it gets to the point where you really just want to even know what this person looks like, rather than just how they draw themselves.
Pictures about, it's like nuclear.
Yeah.
I did this when the friends make a nuclear experiment in Mororo, and it's about anti-nuclear in Java, in Indonesia.
Right.
Sometimes I have to put like Rolling Stones, this for on the top, this for camouflage. It's like camouflage.
The picture is not overtly political.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
And it's also this my favorite things to draw. It's like the evolution from love to got nuclear symbols, and then that, or just the opposite direction. And it's in the middle. It's like confused. This one's about solidarity for people in Kedung Ombo. Kedung Ombo is the name of the place in Java where my government want to build a water dam. And then they sweep away the people, and they don't give a good compensation. And there's a lot of corruption over there. And police ever took this when they raid my house. Yeah, really. It's like three or four different corps of army and police came to my house and they raid, and then they took it.
Well, I think that women have been systemically and systematically alienated from the mainstream comic scene, but I do think that's going to change with the whole advent of the concept of the autobiographical comic. I mean, that is a concept that is so much more friendly to women. Julie Doucet and Sarah Dyer and Ariel Bordeaux and stuff, I mean, they simply wouldn't be around if it wasn't for the autobiographical comic.
We'd benefit a lot if everyone was working, not everyone, but if a majority of the creators got together under a single sort of a banner or some sort of group and sort of pooled their talents. I think by themselves, if they're just sort of trying to pull out comics and export them and maybe try and, I guess, flood the Australian market, it's going to be tough, because they'd have to have something really good to do that, to catch everyone's attention.
Yeah, it's nice, like Australian comic, like the comic that I've seen around here, most of them is like, it's like comic for comic artists.
Yeah. Yeah, that's pretty sadly true. Think of the Australian comic scene.
Well, I mean, it sucks, basically, which is not to say the people suck, but like the opportunities, basically, what can I say? Most of you guys are just hosed. But then again, it's not much better than in America either. In France, it's like everybody reads comics. They respect you. Here, you say you do comics, you read comics, whatever. You know, you have a comic open on the trim. I feel guilty. I want to hide it or something. And I don't know. I think there's some cultural belief here, even more so in America, that you can't communicate with comics. I think the potential is wide open just because it's not a big field. You don't have huge names. You can do whatever the hell you want, and you don't need a lot of money to do it. Basically, all you need is one of these. There are no constraints on comics. You know, it's something you can do by yourself. You can't make a movie by yourself. You can't play in a band by yourself, you know, but you can certainly do a comic by yourself. There are no limitations. As Harvey Picard has said, comics are words and pictures, and there's no limit to how good the words can be. There's no limit to how good the pictures can be. I'm going to Cambodia in about 6 months, and I'm going to try to do my comic from there. I don't know if I'll pull it off,